We'll get started. My name's Adam Robinson. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Hireology, and I really want to thank, first off, Bill and Tom for giving me the opportunity to talk with you guys today about the people side of your business. There are some folks in here that have worked with us, some for a long time, and so it's great to have the opportunity to talk with people who work with us and who are just learning about us for the first time. But my only goal today for the next 40 minutes we have together is for you to walk out of here with one or two things you can do when you get back to your store to be better at the people side of your business. Okay, thank you, sir. How's that sound?
Good.
You good? Okay. At the end, I will show you how to get these slides. So yes, take notes, but I will make that job easier for you. Tom was kind enough to include a copy of my book in your bag, and I hope you do read it. It also makes for good paperweight if you don't. But please send me your feedback. Had a good talk with Gary about it first thing here this morning, and just really appreciative, good, bad, or otherwise, of any feedback you have. The best conversations I have are with people who absolutely, vehemently disagree with me when I tell you that the people side of your business is your only sustainable competitive advantage, period. It's not the cars. It's the people. So we're going to talk about that. All of you go to 20 groups or mastermind groups or peer groups or events like this, and we talk about important things, fundamentals for your business, like inventory management. And yes, it is important to turn cars one day faster. And yes, it's important to shave a quarter point off your marketing budget. And yes, it's important to manage cost in your dealership. When you look at where the dollars are flowing in this business, about $9 billion wash through automotive retail in non-personnel costs every year. About $9 billion just to keep the lights on in the store. From a cash standpoint, last year dealers were holding, if you took a look at it in aggregate, about $1.4 billion of manufacturer money. You were holding dollars if you're in the new car business. That is now reversed, and I know many of you have seen that happen. So we talk about all these important concepts. Meanwhile, $60 billion of expense in this business are tied up in your payroll. How much time do you spend talking about that at your 20 group? Zero time? Zero time. It's page 7 of your dealership financials, right? You flip through, there's a box on the bottom of page 7 that says personnel cost is a percentage of gross margin, and you go, meh. It's about 50 to 70%. It's 70% fully loaded, right? If you take full cost, it's 70%. Now, raise your hand if you have a better process for buying office supplies. Yeah, proud of that. But we're not managing the thing that has the greatest impact on our profitability and our customer experience. So we're going to talk about that advantage today, and I want to share with you two things I think are incredibly useful for any dealer, whether you've got a new franchise business with used vehicle component or you're a standalone independent dealer. This stuff works for your business no matter what business you're in. I don't care if you're a large footprint group or a single point store. All of this is applicable and implementable by everyone in this room today. It is already hard being in this business. You just heard from Dale about margin compression and how difficult it is to make money in used vehicle operations. You know how difficult this business is. And another way of putting what Dale said, you don't have control over much. You cannot control the economy. And you cannot control interest rates. And you cannot control gas prices, and you cannot control your manufacturer, and you cannot control the regulators. What's the one thing you have full control over in your business? I would argue the one thing you have total control over, that's not some reaction to a market condition, is whom you put on your payroll. You have 100% authority and choice over who you put on your payroll. So I will argue all day long that it should be treated every bit as core and critical to your business as every other part of your business. And I don't think you're doing that today. Fog a mirror, pass a drug test, when can you start is not a hiring process. But it's worked, right? We just cycle people through, hire 5, one will stick, hire 5, one will stick for 20 years. You can do this differently. So let's talk about that. And people always ask me, okay, I'm sold, I'm interested, where do I start? I want you to think about the concept of your store's brand as an employer in your local market. What is a brand?
Your image, your everything.
It's your image. It's the perception your market has of your store. If I'm going to do business with you, what do you stand for? And how much time do you spend thinking about that today? All of your time, right? How can I stand out from my competitor? What do I stand for in my market? Well, that's your consumer brand. If that's your consumer brand, your employment brand is what your local market thinks of you as an employer. And I promise you, they're talking about you. And what's even more interesting is your employment brand touches more people than your consumer brand does in a meaningful way. You look at the number of applicants, you think about it. You post a job to a job board like Indeed. Some of you last night at the reception were telling me you get 200 or 300 applicants in 3 or 4 days every time you post. You're touching 400 potential consumers in your market. What's their experience with you as a potential employer? Do you treat them with the respect you treat them if they were interested in buying a vehicle from you? I'm going to argue probably not. But what our research shows is when your employment brand suffers, your consumer business suffers. When your employment brand is elevated, you sell more cars also. So these things are in lockstep. So I want you to think about it. We're going to talk about employment brand. So what happens when your brand gets stronger? You get more leads, right? You get more leads. The same thing happens, I keep pressing the wrong button. The same thing happens with your employment brand. When your employment brand's stronger, more people opt into learning more about your organization. It becomes this really interesting cycle where people hear about you as a place to work, that's great, and they opt in. So when someone comes into your store with an intention, they know what they want, are you more or less likely to get business done? Much more likely. Same with hiring. If I submit my resume to your store because I actually want to work there because so-and-so told me it was great or I've heard it was a great place to work, I'm much more likely to come to work for you if you think I'm a fit. Not only am I much more likely to come to work for you, but I'm much more likely to be productive faster, to sell cars with higher gross margin, to have higher CSI scores, and to stay longer. Are those good things or bad things? Those are all good things. So here's a question I will ask you. Do you think you have the management team on staff that can handle an A-player roster of talent in your store? Let's say you replaced everyone you know should be replaced. How do you know they should be replaced? Because when you go to bed at night, before your head hits the pillow, these are the people that the last thought running through your mind is as you close your eyes, and I invite you to do this with me now, is how in the world did this guy get a job in my store? Do you know who that person is? You've all got that person. Anyone not have that person or people? Okay, a few of you, right? Gary runs one of the tightest hiring processes. Maurice is world class at this, right? But they put how much time into this? A lot of time, right? A lot of time into this. A lot of time and a lot of money, but it's worth it. Better hires lead to better managers. If you think you've got bad managers, let me challenge you. Have you given your managers the team they need to be successful? What if you provided your managers, who you're questioning their ability to execute your vision and strategy, what if you provided them with people that could actually help them do that? Maybe you don't have bad managers, Maybe it's your lack of focus on this critical part of your business that's causing your managers to fail or underperform. Because managers should not be doing anything. They should be leading people to do those things. And when your managers start to burn out, it's because the people aren't up to the task, generally. It's not because they're a poor leader. But when you start to recruit better people, you start to find out where your managers are at. And once that happens, that's when culture improves. So if you just think about this as, okay, I'm shooting for best dealerships to work for this year. I'm going to go out, we're going to build a great culture. That is absolutely asking your team to boil the ocean. You can't just start saying better culture. It starts very tactically with, I'm going to make sure we're putting our best foot forward in the market. Now, what do I mean by that? I'm going to talk about that after a pop quiz here. So here's a quick quiz to keep you on your toes. Raise your hand if you think this statement is true. Companies that screen for values have a better chance of predicting the right people than those that screen for intelligence. Who thinks if you screen for values, it's more predictive than screening for intelligence? That is wrong. That's false. Absolutely false. Companies that screen for cognitive ability as a single measurement are more predictive on the recruiting process than those that screen for values. Second question, conscientiousness, which is just a fancy word for customer service. Companies that screen for conscientiousness make better predictions for job performance than those that screen just for intelligence. Raise your hand if you think that's true. Nobody is going to raise their hand now. I've scared you all. That is false. False. Patently false. Screening for intelligence is more predictive than screening for customer service orientation. Third question. Integrity tests are not effective because so many people lie on them. So, are you going to lie, cheat, or steal? You're going to falsify documents. You're going to do all the bad things. Right? That's what an integrity test measures. Who thinks that's true? Okay, you guys are actually a pretty sharp group here. That is false. Absolutely false. Ironically, people with low integrity tell the truth on integrity tests. But wouldn't that be the time that you'd want to lie? But the research says people don't. They actually are highly effective. Fourth and finally, being intelligent is a disadvantage in low-skilled jobs. Raise your hand if you think that's true. Also false. High intellect is a predictor of increased likelihood of success in all jobs in your store. So why do I tell you this? What you're looking at here are the results of a research study that was written up in the Harvard Business Review a couple years ago. And you see a percentage on the left. This research study surveyed thousands of seasoned HR leaders at Fortune 1,000 and 2,000 companies, global brands, huge organizations with dedicated centralized HR departments. The percentage on the left is a percentage of HR professionals, people that do this all day, percentage of people that got these questions wrong. That means you have advantage. So let me ask the question differently. Would you rather hire the cast-offs that the dealership down the street decided wasn't good enough for them as your strategy? Do you want to hire whoever's left, or do you want to have first crack? First crack. It's your employment brand that gets you there, okay? And it starts with measurement. This is the appendix from the back of that study, which I think is some of the most important information in this study. On the right, you see correlations, right? Predictions between the measurement and what's actually effective. And some of you in the back might not be able to see this. But up front, help them out. What's the least predictive measurement of future success? Job experience. With a 0.13 correlation, which is not correlation at all. It's like a shotgun fired at a page. There's just dots all over the place. What do you spend 100% of your time in an interview talking about with a candidate? Job experience. It's not relevant. I promise you. Not in the way that you think. I'll tell you what I mean by that. Followed by personality tests. low correlation. Emotional intelligence tests, very low correlation. Reference checks, low correlation. The only single measurement that's actually highly correlated is cognitive ability. But I am not here to tell you to give everyone an IQ test and hire the smart people. That is not what my presentation is today. I'm simply telling you what you think is effective is not effective. What you're doing is not effective. The most predictive process is what we call multi-measure assessment, and that simply means you need to do all of these things. When you combine all of these things together and manage it closely like every other part of your business, you can get the hiring right 6, 7, even 8 times out of 10. Most dealers get it right 3 times out of 10 in the front of the shop, and about 4 or 5 times in the back. Now, if you can improve your hiring results from 3 to 5 times out of 10 to 6 or 7 times out of 10, what's that going to do for the profitability of your store? For most stores, we see about $370,000 of profit add back in the form of reduced draw that's wasted, unemployment insurance that you don't have to pay out, lawsuits, lift on margins, and velocity on vehicle sales. Just by getting 2 more people out of 10 hired correctly. So would you say that's a worthwhile investment of your time? Show me somewhere else you're going to find $400,000 lying on the floor. Because that's what this is. It's a nearly $500,000 opportunity for the average new car franchise. Okay. Further sobering statistics. The size of the entry-level labor pool between 2002 and 2022 has and will drop by about 20%. That's because the millennial generation, which you hear so much about, which now is about 60% of the workforce, by the way, not only have they delayed purchases of homes, but they've also delayed purchases of cars. They delayed having children, starting families. Right? They're starting families about 10 years later on average than my generation did. It doesn't mean they're not going to have children. It just means that children come later, which is going to push out all the new 16-year-olds eager to show up to work in your store for that first job opportunity out 10 years. So the pond has shrunk. This has huge implications for consumer purchasing, right, in that 16 to 24-year-old demographic, but it has a big implication on the labor pool. So even if you're great at this, it's going to be harder. All right. So if I've made you throw up in your mouth a little bit, then I've been successful. So let's talk about what we do about this. What do we do about this? I want you to think about hiring the way you think about car insurance. State Farm does not need to meet you in person to know that if you have a 16-year-old in the house and a sports car in your garage and your spouse has had 5 accidents, that you're probably going to cost them some money. Maybe not you individually, but people like you with your risk profile tend to be pretty expensive customers for State Farm. So they know to charge you more money or not do business with you. Why do FICO scores work? Because your past propensity to pay back loans you've accrued are predictive of whether or not you're going to pay back future loans. Your FICO score is highly predictive. Why does Blue Cross always ask you if you've had a heart attack before they give you a health insurance policy? It's highly predictive of future health claims. So you know these concepts. And I told you that job experience was the least correlated predictor of future success. Our research shows 50% of what makes someone successful in this business has nothing to do with their experience. It's all about competencies and predetermined hard wiring that I will tell you what those things are here shortly. This works in sports too. You all know the concept of Moneyball. The entire scouting industry in the major leagues was comprised of scouts that would show up to games in high school and college and see if that kid had a major league swing or not, whatever that meant. Do you look like you'd be good in the pros? And they got it right maybe 30, 40% of the time. Until Billy Beane came along and figured out, no. What we really care about is getting people on base. And if you get on base more than the other guy, you're worth more. So let's go find undervalued players based on their on-base percentage. Commonplace now, but radical then. This works in sports. This works in car insurance. It works in health insurance. It works in finance. It works in hiring. The same concepts all apply. You just need to know the things to look for on the front. So I will tell you what those 4 things are right now. We track 67 competencies in our model that sometimes apply and sometimes do not, depending on the job. But there are 4 of them that always apply. They always apply, and they're so highly predictive, we call them the super elements. The rest we call our elements of success. There are 4 that matter. So at your next interview, I'm going to give you 3 questions to ask. Just promise me you'll stop what you used to do and just do these 3 or 4 questions. I'm going to give them to you, all right? The super elements: attitude, accountability, prior related job success, and this thing called culture fit. And I'll explain each of them. Attitude is defined as a positive disposition toward work. Not, I like this job, but rather, I like to work. I like working. Some people in your store just don't like to work, right? You know those people. It doesn't matter what job it is. They're just not all that into it. Research shows people with a positive disposition toward work that persists across job experiences, right? A consistent pattern of positive attitude toward work are overwhelmingly more likely than their peers to be top quartile performers in any job. In any job. Some other interesting research, I found this fascinating. They looked at the University of Minnesota over a 20-year period, they looked at hundreds of identical twin pairs separated at birth. Had never met each other. Anyone a twin or have twins in the room? Okay. You're a twin? Okay. They looked at twins that had never met each other, right? Separated at birth. And they looked at lots of things. And among these things, they looked at workplace attitude. And what they found was it did not matter whether it was a blue-collar or white-collar job, whether they were married or divorced, kids, no kids, college, not college, Phoenix or Boston, did not matter. Identical twins separated at birth report statistically identical levels of job satisfaction, which tells you that attitude toward work is most likely hardwired and not acquired. So the person walking around your store with the rain cloud over their head might have a few good days each month, but they're hardwired to have more bad days than good days. So if you believe the research that says positive disposition toward work leads to a higher likelihood of success, and you also believe the research that says attitude can't be taught, shouldn't you be screening for this in an interview? Yes. And it's pretty easy to do. Ask the following question. When was the last time you were so frustrated at work that you wanted to quit? Everyone in this room is thinking that was yesterday. That's okay, because the answer is not important. People get frustrated. What's important is how they deal with that and describe that frustration. So the most important follow-up is, tell me why. What was going on that day? Someone with a positive disposition toward work will go out of their way to give you all the reasons why that bad experience was positive. So they'll give you an answer like this. Look, it was an incredibly frustrating experience. It was the 10th time the manager split my sale. I was pretty upset. I need to move on, but I got to tell you, these guys gave me my shot. And I'm grateful for that. It's just time for me to go. That's an example of a good answer. Someone that took a negative situation and described it positively. What don't you want to hear? Oh, that place is a mess. They light people on fire down there. I cannot wait to get out of there. The manager has no idea what he's doing, right? And all the alarm bells are going off in your head. You're having that conversation. You're like, oh man, this person, oh no, this is horrible. And what do? You stick your hand out and say, when can you start? Don't you? It's exactly what you do. You stick your hand out and you ask them when they can start. Okay? Stop doing that. People with a negative disposition toward work, just walk away. Walk away. We're thinking about reducing our risk of hiring the wrong person. That's the first way you do it, okay? Second, sense of accountability. In psychology terms, we call this the locus of control. And it's the degree to which you believe the things that happen in your life, good or bad, are attributable to your own decisions. And there are two types, an internal locus and an external locus. People with an internal locus of control are 40%, 40. 40% more likely to be top quartile performers in your store. You know who these people are. Someone with an internal locus of control, when you ask them, right, think of your sales manager. If you're the dealer, think of your general manager. When you ask them, how's the month going? You can tell whether it's going to be a good month or a bad month based on their answer. People with an internal locus of control will tell you all of the things they're going to do to make sure you close strong, or the things they did that are reasons why you're not going to. Boss, we had the wrong inventory, we're struggling. I'm going to make some moves and we're going to try to close strong. Or we ran the wrong incentives. Or look, our marketing was off. Or I staffed the store wrong. We didn't have enough coverage on the weekend. What did they do right or wrong? And you have those conversations all the time. You also have these conversations. The weather was bad. What do you do with that? Let's change. Okay, so next month we're going to change the weather. Got it. Cool. What do you do with that? They're excuses. Here's the question you ask in the interview process. When was the last time you set an aggressive goal for yourself that you failed to achieve? Everybody misses goals from time to time. Tell me about the last time you missed one. And then ask why. What happened? Someone with an internal locus of control will give you an answer like this. I set the goal too high. Well, they don't really manage us that well, so I need a goal, so I wanted to make one for myself. I set it too high, I missed it. Or I should have done a better job defining what success looked like. Or I should have done a better job getting the resources I needed to hit that goal. I did that. I didn't do that, but it's on me. Someone with an external locus of control will give you excuses. And by the way, this works on family members and potential spouses of your kids. This trick works at cocktail parties. So I encourage you, go out in the world and ask people about the last time, so tell me, how are things going? Good. So what's one thing you could be doing differently, right? What's working, what's not? Why isn't it working? Listen to the answer. People are one or the other. People are one way or the other. I am in a room full of people who are accountable. I know that. And I know the single biggest thing you could do to change the trajectory of your business is replace all the people in your store who are not. Do you know who that person is? Do you know who the person is who makes the excuses, tells you all the reasons why it's not going to work, and you walk away frustrated? Why are they on your payroll? That payroll seat is an opportunity to get a financial result. And you need someone in there that's going to own that result for you. Every single seat in your store should be filled with someone who's personally accountable. Would you rather spend 4 days a week managing headaches caused by people who don't own the result, or a half a day a week extra putting the right people on the team? That's your job as the leader. All right, third, prior-related job success. This is the work experience. This is the resume. But the industry is not predictive. If you're in a highly technical role, if you're a technician, if you have to have specific experience, yes, work experience matters. There are certain cases where vocational aptitude really matters. But you can test that. You either know diesel engine technology or you don't. That doesn't mean you're going to be a good diesel tech. Just because you know the job doesn't mean you're going to be good at it. Here's what's predictive. If you've ever worked in an environment where your performance was actively monitored and measured, that's what matters. Here's how you find out. Ask this question. When you go home at the end of the day, how do you know you had a good day? Someone who's accountable and who's had their performance managed properly will answer you with a number. They will tell you how many calls they needed to make, how many demos they needed to complete, how many appointments they needed to set, how many ROs they needed to write. Whatever it is, they know the number. They'll tell you, look, if I had 3 test drives, that was a good day. I was happy. I generally sell 1 car. If I sold 1 car, it was a great day. Somebody that has not had their performance managed will tell you if they did some test drives, they had a good day. How many? A couple? It doesn't mean they're going to be a bad employee. What it means is they're not someone who's used to being managed closely. And if you're here today, I know you are someone interested in managing your business closely, so the people you put on the team need to be comfortable in that environment. So hire people who are comfortable being managed. You actually prefer it. This type of person prefers having the numbers up in the break room so everybody can see it. Some people just don't like that. Hire people who do. This business is all about transparency and performance. Hire people who like that. They can come from any industry. And then finally, this thing called culture fit. I want you to think about your best person, the best person on your team. Does everyone know who that best person is? Think about the person, the chips are down, you need to send your one best person because you can't go to this meeting or opportunity. Whom do you send? Does everyone know who that person is? Yes? Okay, give me some adjectives that describe that person. Just call them out.
Hardworking.
Hardworking. Reliable. 2 unreliable. Solution-oriented. Loyal. Positive. Smart. You all have that list, okay? So homework assignment number 1. On the plane ride home, before the Wi-Fi signal comes on, you got about 10 minutes. It's going to be real quick. Write down this list of adjectives for the one best person in your organization. That list of adjectives are your value system as a leader. Those are the things you believe in as important. That's your value system. So the next time you're in an interview and someone looks awesome on paper and they're talking the game, but you realize that this is not somebody who does it the way I want it done, those are the tough ones. This is your tiebreaker. You just move on. The alarm bells are going off. You're in that moment and you're thinking, this person, he or she is just not going to fit into this store. And you stick out your hand and say, when can you start? Don't do that. Just say thank you, but I don't think this is the environment for you. And it's hard, just grit your teeth and walk away. Because this is where you hire great people that don't work out and you're frustrated why. Did you know that the top performing salesperson at store A has a greater than 50% likelihood of not being in the top half of performance at their next store? Did they suddenly become a bad salesperson? No. What changed? Their environment. Different culture, different value system, different tools, different management, different metrics, different brand, different market. Your success is a product of all of those things. Right? And when you change the environment, you change what makes somebody successful. So understand what makes you successful. Okay, I'm going to stop here. Any questions about these super elements before I move on? Yes. Yeah, Dale. Up front, and then Dale.
Can you repeat the interview question for the prior related job success?
The interview question for prior related job success is, when you go home at the end of the day, how do you know you had a good day? Someone will answer with a number or some kind of quantifiable metric. And you dig for it if they don't. Well, how many? And if they don't know what they were supposed to do in a day, it doesn't mean they're bad. It just means that the risk of them not working out just went way up. Dale.
Isn't it true that every time you change the sales manager, you change the environment?
Absolutely true. So Dale's comment, if you change the managers, it's true you change the environment. Yes, it is, which is why whomever you have leading your sales organization or service operation, it's so critical. It's so critical. You know the number one reason top performers leave? It's not money. Yeah, it's their manager. And specifically the statement they make is, I do not believe my manager has my best interests in mind. That's the statement. The research shows top producers leave when they feel their manager does not have their best interests in mind. The second you screw them on a deal, the second you change their comp plan, the second you do something different as a manager, and you know, like, this guy's going to be pretty upset if I do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. That's when you start to lose folks. Yes?
Do you see success amongst the groups when they transfer employees within the groups? So you talked about culture and the cultural fit changes when a new manager comes in. So I've got 8 stores, moving people all over the place. Some have been successful and some have not.
So here's how you manage that. So that it is absolutely a risk. It's also an opportunity. So if you're a multi-store platform, you can sell, as I'll talk about in employment branding, you sell that mobility as an option or as an advantage. That's a recruiting tool for you. You must understand the work style of the manager and the team member that you're transferring. And there are some styles that work and some that do not. So if you understand the way each of those individuals approaches both management and execution of a plan, that either has a high or low likelihood of being an issue. So if you're not doing assessments or either work style, personality profiling, or job fit assessments, I would encourage you to go back and understand the makeup or profile of your managers.
Adam, just elaborate on that just a moment. I mean, explain to me what I've heard you say before about the style of management of the manager corresponding to the people who work for him.
Sure, I'll give you a simple example. So Dale's question was, what about work styles? A manager, I'll give you 2 archetypes. There's manager A is the person that says, this is what we have to do this month. These are the tools I'm providing you to go be successful. Now, go be successful, and we'll check in every week. We'll see if it's working or not. I trust you, go. Manager B, what'd you do yesterday? What'd you do yesterday? What'd you do yesterday? What'd you do yesterday? Let's meet twice a day. Let's talk about how the day's going. It's much higher velocity. Which of those works better? Doesn't matter. They both work well. Which kind of person is going to be a fit for manager A versus manager B?
That's what you have to figure out.
That's, Gary, what you have to figure out. That's exactly right. Because you can take a top producer that is used to being grinded on in twice daily sales meetings and loves it. And you stick him or her in a store where the manager's like, I believe in you. Go have a great month. They're dead. It's not going to work because they're going to show, like, it's 2 o'clock. I'm supposed to sit down and talk about how my day's going. It doesn't work. So, and it's neither good nor bad. It's just different. And so there are specific assessments you can do to determine that. Yeah.
Just a comment to your question on the moving people around in management. If you have 8 stores, you probably have senior managers that have a lineage of people behind them. And when you're dealing with moving, let's say the most important move is your top move. So if you're moving a GM or a GSM, who are their, thank you. As you're moving people throughout the organization, you have a lineage of management. And usually a GM or a GSM will have followers, sales managers, desk managers, things of that have been successful with that person. And when you're moving the top person, a GM or a GSM, the top of the chain in the move, you have to look at what that lineage is behind him for the employees that are left behind. Or as you move someone into a alternate store, are you moving the top person or are you moving someone that was the soldier? And the perception of the soldier is guided by the perception of his previous leader. So we always look at it as as we're bringing up someone in management into a general manager's position or a GSS position, we look more at who they learned from, who was their leader for the last 5 years, 7 years, 15 years, and how is their perception by their employees, and that's going to guide the perception of the next person coming up. And if the secondary person is going into a new store, you have to see what the perception of what the boss of them previously was from that store.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's a very lineage-oriented thing.
And the question, thank you, Gary, the question is that I would ask everybody that I'm evaluating, internal platform, I would ask this question. When I talk to Gary, whom you worked for the last 3 years at the Honda store, and he tells me about the job you did for him, on a scale of 1 to 10, how will Gary rate your performance? What do you mean? Well, when I talk to him about how you did, what will he tell me on a scale of 1 to 10 you were able to deliver? And why? What would have made it a 10? See if they have self-awareness about what worked or what didn't work. What would you change about Gary's ability to manage the business? Interview them before you move them. Okay, we got to move on. Let's talk about culture fit. Hireology is headquartered 3 blocks north of here. We have 130 employees. The average age is 28. I am not 28. So we've had to figure out how to manage, motivate, train, and retain a bunch of 20-somethings who all day long try and get you guys on the phone. It's hard. You're hard to sell to. You know it. It's tough. This is a tough business. Being in this selling cars or selling to people who sell cars is hard. Very hard. Right? So it takes a certain kind of person. I would tell you that the kind of person that we hire that's able to be successful is the same kind of person that you hire, that you need to be successful. I'm going to share with you how we do that. You can do this. You already know how to do it. When we survey Gen Y millennials, and I know you've heard about them for forever ad nauseum, okay, millennial. Promise this is not a millennial consumer talk, okay? What they want, though, in the following order: career growth potential, number 1. If I come to work for you, what's in it for me beyond a paycheck? Because the labor market is tight and I have options. It's got to be more than a paycheck. Number 2, pay stability. What am I going to make? If I'm a college graduate, I have about $30,000 of student loan debt. I'm probably living with my parents. They want me out of the basement. How's that full commission pay plan going to work for me? Okay. 3rd, work-life balance. And I would argue there's no such thing as work-life balance in the way that we understood it. That's just life, all right? So it has to be integrated. Now, what do we offer in this business? Pretty much the exact opposite of all the things that this generation wants, right? No visibility into career progression, full commission jobs, and really tough hours. So, we don't have a recruiting problem. We have a marketing issue. We are marketing a product that this market doesn't want. It's a 90-hour-a-week full commission job with no career path. That is not a product this market wants. So if you want to change the hiring game at your store, you have to change the product you're offering. And I know it's sacrilege to say base pay plans, but I'm going to tell you, the difference between being able to attract the best people or not is your pay plan. It's also the ability to staff 40 to 45-hour shifts each week, which requires what? Management time, right? You have a comment?
We just recently changed how we hire salespeople, or how we try to hire salespeople. Instead of going to the commission base, we come up with what everybody else is probably doing in the product genius role. So a base salary and bonuses based on volume tied into CSI and
Yep.
other levels of performance. We get 10 times the amount of revenue.
I believe it.
I put a commission sales ad up, I get 5 to 6 people in a market of 200,000 people, literally, maybe 10. I put the product genius up, we have to shut the ad off.
It's amazing. It's amazing. So let's talk more about that. And I want to make sure I stay on time for Tom and Bill here. Here's my job description. I want you to consider if you would put your son or daughter or neighbor's kid into this job. You're going to park cars, you're going to wash cars, you're going to get yelled at a lot, and you're never going to see your family again. You guys are thinking I signed up for that job. Actually, that's the job you have. Who's in on this? Who wants that job? A lot of people want that job, guys. For 25 years, enterprise management has been the single largest employer of college graduates in the United States. And that job is this: park and wash cars at 4 a.m. in a suit at the airport and in the basement of apartment buildings. And they have lines out the door. Anybody come through this program? Anybody an enterprise alum? Okay. Is that accurate? 100%. Okay, but here's what they don't do at the career fair. Hey, thanks for coming by. Yeah, I'll tell you about enterprise. This job kind of sucks. It's a really tough industry. The hours are tough, but you know what? We'll teach you how to sell. And if you need a job, we have jobs. It's really stable. We're a great company to work for. Who's in? Nobody would apply for that job. Instead, here's the pitch enterprise gives. Look, this industry isn't for everyone, and we acknowledge that. But I want you to think about your life 2 years from now, after you graduate, and what you want. Where do you want to be in 2 years? Because if you come to work here, I'm going to tell you that in 2 years, one of two things is going to happen. Right? The first thing that will happen, regardless of the outcome, is we're going to teach you everything you need to know about running a $15 million frontline retail operation. You're going to learn inventory management. You're going to learn how to sell and service. You're going to learn hiring and firing. We're going to teach you finance and operations. We're going to teach you the whole thing. Okay? And 2 years from now, you're going to walk into my office and you're going to tell me you've just been recruited out of here to go work for some other big opportunity. And you know what? I'm going to be thrilled that that happened, because what that means is I prepared you for that. All right? That's number one. Number two, you decide to spend your career with us. And only about 5 to 10% of people do that. But I will show you how 10 years from now, you could be making $500,000 a year as a regional vice president. And there's Rich. He's done it. So let me spend some time with Rich to talk about his story, because he started with us 8 years ago. You're either the most marketable person in the market, or you're set up for a career with us. Both of those are great options. So I encourage you to apply for this. What do you think the difference is there? Oh, by the way, you also are going to be parking and washing cars every day in a suit. Who cares? Sign me up for that. Or you could do this. Straight out of your DMS with the caps lock key still on, to go shout at some people on Craigslist about jobs. This is a real ad. This is a Chicago group you'd recognize. I saw this on Craigslist, and I sent it to the dealer. And I said, man, you got to stop doing this. This is terrible. Nobody wants that anymore, okay? This is Champ Automotive. I like to use them as an example of one of the best career sites I've ever seen in automotive retail. They're in Littleton, Colorado. They've got 5 rooftops. They're an import platform. And all they do is talk about what's in it for you if you want to work for them, okay? They spend all the time talking about that. Because what they've figured out, and I said this at the start, the person they're trying to get into the store to buy cars or service is the same person they're trying to hire. They're trying to get their employee base to reflect their local market. Your local buyer is late 20s to late 30s. That's the fat middle. They're college educated. They're a millennial. And your workforce has to reflect that. So they treat this person the same way they treat the consumer. If I apply for a job at your store, so let me ask you this. How long does it take you to get back to an internet lead when it comes across?
6 minutes.
6 seconds for immediate reply? Do you know how long it takes most car dealerships on average to get back to a job applicant? 8 days. 8 days. How many cars would you sell if it took you 8 days to get back to the buyer? 0. You'd sell 0 cars. The same expectation exists on the employment side. What we found is across the 2,000 or so dealerships running Hireology now, 80% of every hire that has ever been made by a dealer on our platform was hiring someone whose resume the manager reviewed within 48 hours of submission. 80% of the hires made. The resume is reviewed within the first 48 hours because they're gone after that. They've moved on. They've got 15 job opportunities. It's just the way the market is right now. All right, so here's the questions to ask, and then I'll wrap up. What percentage of your internet leads originate on a mobile device? 80, 65, 70, lots, most. What percentage of job applications originate on a mobile device?
Same thing.
It's the same amount. That's exactly right. So, on the plane ride home, I want you to get out your phone and try to apply to a job at your own store. And ask yourself, if I'm a busy professional with lots of options, am I going to retype my resume with my thumbs to come to work for you? I am not going to do that. I'm just going to move on. Again, you don't have a recruiting issue. You have a funnel conversion issue. It's like asking someone to upload their pay stub before you've even met them in the store. No one's going to do it. You haven't earned the right to have them do that work. Right? You're killing your conversion rate. Also, what is the document that no one has on their phone? The resume. What do almost all applications require for submission? The resume. Again, you kill conversion. You require a resume to submit for an open position, it kills your conversion rate by something like 40, 50%. Right? Get their info, then ask for the resume. Get their interest and qualify them with an automated pre-hire assessment, and then get the resume. Right? You know how to do this. You do this every day with consumers. Every day you do these things. Do you talk about what's in it for them, or do you talk about send us your resume and we might call you? That doesn't work. And then finally, if it's not coming up in a Google search, your jobs are invisible. Just like the cars. People are not going to third-party recruiting sites to look for jobs. They're going to Google, and they're searching you specifically. And if you're not coming up, you're invisible. So with that, I will say if you would like these slides, they're sent to you right away. You can text the word talent to 66866. I promise we're not going to spam you with stuff. You will get a link that says download these slides. You'll get chapter 1 of the book, but you already have the book. If anyone wants the audible version of the book, which just came out yesterday, will you please let Tom know? I'm happy to provide digital copies as well for, for gratis, okay? All right.
What was that number to text?
66866. Thank you for giving me an extra 5 minutes, guys. Appreciate it.